And one thing that I've noticed about the music industry, just now that I'm in the business, through the system of the music industry, we prioritize what can make the most money and not necessarily what can resonate with the most people or what's the most genuine and authentic.
From the backwoods of Richmond, Virginia, sitting down with the man himself, Jordan Peterson. We are super excited to react to this interview. It just dropped about a day ago, and so we're hoping to get you guys out a really comprehensive analysis of kind of what our thoughts are on what he's doing. But David just got back from Mexico too.
Yeah, sorry for no spicy content in the last 3 weeks.
I gave him hell for it, don't worry.
Well, I mean, I was in Cancun visiting some family on the wife's side.
Best food you've ever had, right?
In my entire life, but I definitely gained some weight and probably have high cholesterol. And
don't worry, guys. We'll get him back in the gym. We got to hold each other accountable, right?
No, but I'm excited. I haven't seen any of this interview yet.
Yep.
But it dropped 18 hours ago, and we're going to try to get this out today. So you're getting some juicy new stuff,
new content.
But
guys.
it's gonna be fun. I'm excited to see.
All right, let's get into it.
First of all, I'm really curious about how you're doing, because you've been like the center of a media firestorm here in the last couple of weeks, and that must be shocking to you. What's that been like, and why do you think your song? What is it about your song that you think you did right that it contributed to its going viral?
So I have taken time to try to understand that myself. The song skyrocketed in a way that there's been accusations that it was propped up, almost that I'm an industry plant, because it was like we posted the song on we recorded it on a Saturday. I think he uploaded it on Tuesday. And by Thursday, man, we were on a roller coaster ride. Like it was already apparent that things were heading in a direction that nothing else on his channel had done previously,
Wow.
Radio WV. I guess to answer the first part of your question, how I'm doing, I'm surprisingly very calm. Like, I've been entertained the last couple weeks. I've been given sort of an unfair advantage of how the internet works and how narratives are spread in certain directions people form opinions about things. Like, for example, me playing the Super Bowl, I've gotten a lot of comments and messages saying that I'm a sellout, that I've decided to sing at the Super Bowl. But that was just an internet meme that someone created on Facebook. For example, the one that popped up yesterday was that, Oliver Anthony's stuck at Burning Man, and people were sending me stuff telling me how terrible it was that I'm at this Burning Man's this satanic ritual place and you shouldn't be there. And it so I uploaded a video of me hanging out with my goats in the woods. Like, yeah, man, Burning Man, it really.
All right. The internet is fascinating.
It is.
We had a comment on one of our other videos where a guy said that we were a part of the Matrix because of my chair, because there's this little
logo in the
back. I got this at Staples, bro.
That is amazing. Just to give context as well, because you've been out of the country. When he mentioned Burning Man, a crazy catastrophe happened recently where people were trapped, like 70,000 people. Trapped at Burning Man.
I saw that.
And there were you could see them walking in the street, and there was mud everywhere, and there was fires, all kinds of crazy stuff. It's just been a hectic 3 weeks, and the fact that he has so much peace, and in the midst of the storm, that people are throwing all of these memes at him. They're trying to make him out to be something that he's not. That he's an industry plant. I love the joy and the peace that I see in his face.
It's amazing.
He's at rest, and you can tell Peterson even sees it. That's why he's enjoying this. He's laughing.
He's just filled with peace, man. But it's funny because I think, was it you or was it someone? One of our friends sent us the whole Super Bowl thing, and they're like, "Oh, this will be awesome."
That was me.
That was you.
I believed it. I wanted to believe it because most of the Super Bowl halftime shows these days suck.
Things don't happen that fast, bro.
Yeah, women just wanting to get on stage and take their clothes off and twerking 300 feet in the air, and just it's just been weird. Like, I think America just wants normal people that have talent to sing songs that matter for a generation. And that was what caused me to want to do it.
But the internet is a fascinating place.
It is.
So, it's terrible being stuck at Burning Man. But, so I don't know. I try not to take myself so seriously, and I've tried not to take this situation so seriously. It's just, I'm blessed for the opportunity to be here. I mean, even just being able to have a conversation with you is surreal. Meeting Joe Rogan was surreal. Just the artists that I've looked up to, like Jamie Johnson and Shooter Jennings, and it's just so weird that they're a phone call away now. So I'm doing well. Like I, as I'm sure you know, like the last couple of years haven't been so great for me anyway, as far as my own perception on life. And so this is exciting to have a new opportunity to dive into. It's really what I've been wanting to do for a long time. I've just been so terrified of the idea of doing it, but here I am. Like there's no going back now, I guess. So.
Yeah. Well, that's actually something I wanted to talk to you about, because I was reading when I was doing some background research on you. And this is relevant to the issue of selling out that you brought up. So, I've worked with a lot of artists, and I've worked with a lot of wannabe artists too, or at least had contact with them. And one of the things I've really noticed is that many of the people I've met who are extremely artistically talented shoot themselves in the foot on the commercial side of things. And they do that in 3 ways. The first is 4 ways. The first is they're actually terrified of commercial success. And that's actually understandable, because along with commercial success comes a transformation in lifestyle and in social positioning. And it's easy to be leery of that. And there's some utility in that, especially if you're a private person, but then there's ideological issues that come up too. So it's the issue of selling out is a really relevant one. Lots of artists will refuse to have anything to do with the commercial end of their enterprise because they're afraid that will interfere with the flourishing of their artistic spirit.
Yep.
And that's foolish. And it's foolish for a bunch of reasons. Like, first of all, why create unless people have access to what you create? I mean, maybe you enjoy it yourself, and that would be perfectly the case, for example, with music. But, if you're a performer, in principle, you want people to hear what you have to perform, and partly so they can enjoy it, partly so you can get feedback, so you can get better. And so you actually want to bring your work to the attention of as many people as possible. The people who bitch and moan about selling out most loudly are almost always people who've had no opportunity to sell out. No one's ever offered them the chance to be commercially successful. And so what they do is they elevate their moral stance falsely by claiming that they're the sort of people that would never fall prey to any capitalist temptations, when the truth is they're not talented enough or interesting enough for anyone to ever offer them that possibility.
Wow.
And then the other thing that creative people do that's a really big problem is they don't construe the marketing end, the communication end, as another creative challenge. So if you're a creative person, you actually overlap with people who have entrepreneurial interests temperamentally. But one of the things you can do if you're creative, and this stops you from selling out, is to understand that the venture of marketing yourself and presenting yourself and developing a professional persona, and also learning how to buffer yourself against the negative consequences of that, is also a creative challenge. Because you might ask, any creative person might ask, well, if I was going to handle the problem of being successful creatively, how would I do that? And then it becomes another creative problem, instead of like an antithesis between, let's say, the selling out capitalism that would warp your creative spirit and the creative spirit itself. So I'm wondering, in your situation, I read today that you had an $8 million contract offer that you turned down. I'm wondering if that's true. If it's true, why you did it, what your alternative plans are, and if you have like a real developed vision for what it would be like to keep doing what you're doing, but also be successful.
Pause it.
Wow.
So that's was a lot.
That's a lot.
I love the fact of, I think what Peterson's talking about when it comes to self-delusion, right? So when you're an artist or creative or a entrepreneur, if you don't have the opportunity given to you, you literally put yourself into a state of self-delusion.
Yep.
Because your brain can't comprehend the idea that you're not successful. And so it's even then back to the video of Andrew Tate with the psychotherapist, right? You put yourself into a state of self-delusion in your mindset so that ultimately if you want to get to that place, but you're not there. So you have this level of jealousy and vengeance in your heart towards the other people in the industry that have that. And so that is where you see the trolls online or the people that are trying to attack Oliver. They're not at a place that he is. And so they're upset that he's reached this level of fame. And so there's a level of greed and vengeance in their heart towards him. And that's what he's talking about.
People have stopped looking inward and seeing how can I become better? And they use excuses to where they're not where they should be.
Yes.
And that is one of the things that is really destroying people from being able to become as successful as they could, is they don't focus, they don't go in the lab, they don't become better individuals in every way, more value, being able to bring more things to the market, becoming more fit so that you command a presence when you walk into the room. Because when you are somebody that's blowing up, very few people in the world blow up purely based on because they have an incredible voice, right? Not everyone's Christina Aguilera, you know? This guy's message and the way he sings and the soul that he's put into it is what's making him so powerful, because it's the message, but it's also, you can tell he has a journey. But I'm really curious to see what he says, because he asked him, did you had an $8 million offer on the table.
The idea of selling out, that was the beginning of his point.
I saw that too. I saw that someone offered him $8 million and he's turned it all down, but I'm curious to hear why.
Let's see.
Oh, that's okay. I knew what I was getting into when I came on the program. I understand. Yeah, music is important to me individually. Like these songs that I wrote for me, and inadvertently it has helped a lot of other people, like not just Richmond, north of Richmond, but I've got to get sober. Like that's one that I just recorded on my Android phone. And if you look through the comments and emails I've gotten, I had a gentleman the other day at Moyock. We played at a farm market, and he told me that his brother had committed suicide. He had been struggling with drugs for years. This is like a big, rough guy, like a guy that looked like he could kill me with 2 fingers. And we hugged each other, and as he cried and told me this, like that's
wow, come on.
That's what's important to me is like,
love this guy. People
are just so desperate to restore some element of humanity back in our life that we've somehow lost. So I don't want to, I don't want to make this into some enterprise where everything's about beating the algorithm and being at the top of the charts and posting in social media at just the right time to capture the most audience. Like that there's plenty of people who are out playing that game and they're good at it. And I'd like for them to continue to do that. I just want to feel like I have the freedom to do whatever I find it is necessary in that moment of time to impact people the way I have so far with the music that I've produced. I have something like 21,000 emails right now in my Gmail. I've got 2,500 unread messages on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and they're not just people telling me, good music, dude, keep it up. No, it's paragraphs of stories of like people having to work 2 jobs because they lost their business during COVID and their kid committed suicide. And it's just wretched stuff that it is the full transparent narrative of what a lot of us already see on the surface level of what's happened the last few years. And so I don't know what I want my music to turn into. It may manifest itself into some form of like a nonprofit or a ministry more than just me going out. Like I don't want to just go yell all my songs in a stadium, every weekend for the rest of my life. Like I want this to turn into something that's more meaningful than that, if that makes any sense. So,
I love this guy. I love this guy. He is so real, authentic. Man. Peterson's just, you can tell he's just enjoying this. I mean, just the fact that this guy doesn't want to be in the spotlight in front of stadiums of people. He doesn't want to manipulate the algorithm to his own success. He wants to turn this into a ministry. And the stories, man, even for us, And the Oliver Anthony videos that we've done, we've read every comment. You know, they're paragraphs of comments of people just telling their stories and opening up and just, and they have a voice now too. That's what he's doing with this genre of people, or even just the masses that feel left out, that feel unheard. It's such a beautiful symposium that he's giving out to all of us. Is I'm a regular guy.
When you find what you're meant to do with the rest of your life, not everybody is motivated by making the most money.
Yeah.
A lot of people, when they find that thing that gets them excited to wake up in the morning, when they just have a passion, and when they see that what their life is making a difference, it's so much more powerful than just money. Yes, does he want to be well off? I'm sure he does. You know, he wants to be able to not worry about money anymore, because that is a huge stress on all of our lives.
Especially for men.
Yes, especially for men, is trying to figure out how to provide for our family, how to make sure that we don't have to ever worry about being homeless. But he's never going to have to worry about money again, but he's not chasing that money.
Money's not his idol.
Is not his idol. He even said a ministry or a nonprofit.
Isn't that awesome?
And do you know what the purpose of that is? It is to make a difference in the lives of people.
Ordinary Americans.
He's speaking for people on all. We've done a couple reactions on Oliver Anthony. Everyone is saying that he is the voice of speaking what people have wanted to say, but they either get canceled or they're too worried about what everybody's going to think of them. So a lot of people have become silent, and they're not speaking out about what they believe and what they want to do in this world. So therefore, most people's fathers want them just to get a regular 9-to-5 job and just to grind their whole life and have, just to make sure they're doing that. And obviously we all need to make money. But when you find your purpose that is bigger than just that clocking in and clocking out, it could be just a hobby you have on the side.
Yeah.
For him, he's found his passion, and it's inspiring.
When your purpose matches your voice, you reach everybody. You don't reach just this political party. You don't reach just one culture. People in Australia have commented on our videos of him. People in West Africa, Philippines, everywhere are watching this man and saying, I get it. I get his humanity. I understand his voice. And that's beautiful. Let's go to the next one, because we could talk about this for hours.
So two things on that. Well, okay, first of all, one of the things that's happened, I think, is that the sacred has collapsed into the profane. And so the political has now become sacred. You have to have a space for things that are sacred so they stay out of the political. And everything has become too touchy to talk about, because everything political has become religious. And that's really not a good thing. It's part of the reason that we need that a religious foundation isn't optional. I know you talked about that a little bit with Rogan.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that's interesting, you said you don't want to go just to a stadium and shout out lyrics and let everybody get drunk and go home. And, one of the things I've also seen that's unfortunate is that many of the artists I've talked to, and these were often people who had stellar, like, international careers, they're afraid, and I'm not saying that this is necessarily the case with you, but I'd like to talk about it with you. They're afraid that their mere art isn't good enough, given the importance, let's say, of all the political and maybe religious upheaval there is in the world. But, I actually don't think that's true. I don't think, I've gone to a lot of concerts and I've watched the kind of quasi-religious nature of a great concert. And I actually don't think there's anything more important that an artist can do than, in your situation, for example, is to give the best damn concert you possibly can, and I can see you're torn between that to some degree, because you say, well, you don't want to go and shout out a bunch of lyrics so that people can get drunk and go home. But then that what you've done has spoken to many people very deeply all around the world, and that what you've done was a genuine expression of what you really believe to be true. And I would say that if you go to a concert and what you do is you really sing what you believe to be true, there actually is no better service that you can possibly do to people, no matter what it is that you're doing. Like, I don't think there is anything, except for what's truly religious, I don't think there is anything that supersedes genuine art, not in terms of potency and truth.
Wow.
And I think you're seeing that. because of what happened in relationship to your song. And I think that's also partly because of that other point you made, which is, and the same with the song about sobriety, is you're actually writing your songs. I think Hank Williams did this and Johnny Cash too, unbelievably effectively. The genuine songwriters, they're not writing to max out the algorithm, and they don't have contempt for the audience. That's not what I mean. But they're not doing it for their own fame. They're doing it to express something approximating the truth in the way that they see fit. With you, that's obviously going to be musical. So one of the things I would say is, don't be thinking there's any higher purpose you can serve than the genuineness that you bring to your art, man. Good musicians I think people die without good music. It's so important. We have no idea how important it is. How
I agree.
key it is to humans.
I love how Peterson talks, because he's not someone that's easy to do a normal reaction to, because he just gives so much information, so many nuggets that makes you think. And I think that's why people will watch a 2 to 3 hour video of him and they'll just be mesmerized by the way he communicates.
The best thing I can say about it is it reminds me of David in the Bible. What he did to King Saul, he basically healed King Saul's depression with music. And that's the best form of art. He sung his truth to the king, and that's the reality of what Oliver Anthony is doing. His music is touching people's souls. But I'm curious to see what he says here.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
I mean, every culture that we know of, whether they're, music is something that manifests itself in any society. And the more that people suffer, the more they lean on music, Some of the best music's been written in the worst of times. So I definitely agree. Like there's an element of healing to it. And one thing that I've noticed about the music industry, just now that I'm in the business, one of the things I've noticed is that we prioritize, as with a lot of things in art now, like we prioritize through the system of the music industry, we prioritize what can make the most money and not necessarily what can resonate with the most people or what's the most genuine and authentic. And so like in country music, now I loved 90s country music as a kid. I remember riding with my parents and my grandpa and listening to, the Alan Jacksons and George Straits and Bubba Shot the Jukebox, and like those are just fun, like just good songs. But somewhere country music, and I think music in general, has really lost a connection with people because it's become,
thank God,
it's become too commercialized and not enough about. And so that's kind of like, so I've turned down a lot of offers. The latest one I saw was 100 million. That's certainly not the case, but I have had millions of dollars thrown at me, and I've had everything thrown at me the last couple of weeks.
Wow.
And, but I guess the reason why I want to stay on my own path is that, I'd like to inspire other musicians to do the same thing. Like the story of kind of how all this came about is just, most of the music's from my Android phone that I, just recorded, put it on YouTube. I ripped the WAV file, uploaded it. There's a service called DistroKid you can use. You pay like a nominal fee annually. They don't take any of the money, and it automatically puts it on all the platforms for you: Spotify, Pandora, Apple, YouTube Music. I would like to see more people do what it is I did. Like, I'd like, if anything, I'd like it to inspire other artists to not worry about going through a record label or worry about trying to find a big booking agency, but just focus more on creating whatever it is you feel compelled to create and get it out there, and not worry about everything else. Cause obviously that's what we're so desperate. Like even just the phenomenon with podcasts in the last 5 years, like the fact that people can sit here and listen to us talk for an hour and a half so intently. Like that's been me. I listen to podcasts all day long. People are just at this point desperate for authenticity and desperate to connect with other human beings on a level that we haven't been able to connect on very well in the last 10 years because of technology and politics and government and just sort of this weird separation that's been put between us. And COVID certainly accelerated that, to a whole new light. Like it's a very weird world we live in today. And so, that's kind of my thought process, I guess, to kind of wrap up that on me in my future. It's more about, trying to create a new way of thinking with music. And really it's an old way of thinking, but it's just bringing it into our time, you know?
I love this guy.
It's so refreshing to hear somebody do that.
I wish I had somebody like him speak to me that way 5 years ago. We would have created this podcast 5 years ago.
Yeah, we would have been.
My wife looked at me so many times over the last 10 years because I graduated from film school 10 years ago. And she said, "What is holding you back?" And I always said, "I don't have a camera that I like. I don't have a gimbal. I don't have this. I don't have that." And so I always waited till I was put in a position to be able to create the record label level of stuff, you know, when he's talking about music. But it's about what that message is you're trying to get out. So he's not going through a record label because he's trying to inspire people to get that message out, to bring back music that reaches the heart of people, that is more powerful than just having the perfect producer behind the scenes making every flaw sound perfect, you know?
Yeah. People in the music industry are so, a lot of artists are so concerned about making money that they lost their soul in the process.
Exactly.
They lost the authenticity that comes behind putting music out that inspires other, not only musicians, but people to do what they've been created to do. Wow. And that's what he's doing. He's bringing back an old school, old style of authenticity that people are yearning for, because during COVID, a lot of isolation happened and people were just stuck in their homes, and they felt that need of connection more than they have probably in the last 100 years, because they've just been broken and lost. And I know that isolation breeds contempt, and specifically with him, he's reaching people that didn't have a platform, that wanted to get their voice out, and they felt like the best way to do it was to comment on his video. And who knows, what if you're scrolling through the comments and somebody's story resonates with you and you get touched in your soul, and you actually have an ability to be that voice for them and connect on a human level. It's not politics. He's talking to people as a whole. Every human has and wants a desire to connect with other humans.
People want to feel like they actually have something valuable to give this world.
Yeah.
But everybody is waiting for that perfect scenario.
Yeah.
For that perfect job to open. For that perfect situation to come where someone hands them a camera and says, "Okay, now you can go film yourself." Or, "Hey, here's a perfect microphone to go sing." He records stuff with his Android phone.
Yeah.
You know, it's about, if you have a message to get out, don't allow anything to hold you back. And I wish I had that revelation years ago, man, because where we could be now, where not just it's not just about having a lot of subscribers. It's not about all of that. It's just about getting that message out of you that's been burning.
Yeah.
And it's powerful, man.
Oliver Anthony can feel it in his plums.
He is a man full of plums.
Full of plums. Plums.
You know, and I did some research into the history of the education system to find out why that was, because I thought, how the hell can we have an education system where I can have top-rate students who've been through 15 years of school, who've never been sat down once and told, write a vision for your character and your life. And I found out that the education system itself, which was based on the Prussian military model, was designed consciously by people who regarded themselves as fascists. This was in the late 1800s, who wanted to produce obedient workers who couldn't think for themselves. So, hey, man, guess what? 150 years later, that's exactly what we've got. And it is a stunning fact that people aren't encouraged. Well, first of all, they're not encouraged at all. But second, specifically, they're not encouraged to take that time to dream and to say to themselves, look, okay, buddy, here's the deal. You can assume that the world wouldn't object too dramatically if your life wasn't an absolute bloody catastrophe 100% of the time. And you could take a little time to develop a vision about what you wanted. Now, you said, you discovered some things that were actually somewhat difficult to pursue. You had to give up your house. You had to give up your car. You had to move into the woods. You sound like an introverted person to me. Do you remember your score on the Understand Myself? Do you remember where you are for introversion or extroversion?
I believe that I believe that it actually showed I was more extroverted, which, I can see the introverted side. But at the same time, like, it's like I found a lot of, as much as I hate like when I was in my sales job, I hated sales budgets and numbers, and I hated talking to my boss about, oh, we've got to grow this account this much. Like, to me, all that was just horse shit. I just like to go out every day on job sites and like just meet people from all around the country and talk to them. And it just, the money came in because I connected with those people, and they said, well, we'll buy stuff from you because we like talking to you. And that's kind of, but yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
I can't
that's the right
recall
way
it.
to sell, is to make relationships.
He's just so relatable, man.
Yeah, he just
I feel like I could have a cup of coffee with this dude, and I'm like, you're now my best friend. Let's just hang out. Let's go shoot some turkeys.
search some turkeys.
And we're good. But I want to go back to what Peterson said about society has now been set up through education so that you are obedient, which is very interesting because
cog in the machine.
yeah, because everything, our education, I mean, he's a doctor. He's taught people in undergraduate and graduate school all the time. And he said they haven't learned basic things in order to even survive.
They don't teach you how to think for yourself.
They don't teach you how to do that. It's all about how to be obedient. And that's fascinating because I went to college for film. I don't know if I would nowadays. If I could go back in time,
I wouldn't.
I would go to YouTube University.
Hey.
And that's a lot, but that's,
I
wow.
love how he talked about
Wow.
it's called social conditioning.
Yeah.
And when you have social conditioning to that level, your brain starts, especially when you're a young person, 18 to 22, if you're in college, your brain is in such a vulnerable state to be programmed for the rest of your life. And so if you're in college and you have professors, shoving this nonsense at you about how you're supposed to think for them and their agenda, not for your own personal self-development. And that's what Jordan is talking about, is in the Prussian era, they were literally creating robots. And robots don't help society. They just keep the cog of the machine going.
It's important for people to, and this has been said many times in many ways, but it's important for people to, whatever it is that really tugs at their heartstrings, whatever that sort of, and maybe it's lost through the education system, but like as a child, we all have these dreams of whatever it is we want to do, and life seems so limitless, and there's so much potential, and it's like you've got to find a way to face that fear and pursue it, no matter what. Yeah, I mean, the worst thing you could do is, I have a song called "Hell on Earth" that I just kind of threw together. It's an Android recording, but it sort of reminisces this idea of like a lot of people die and go to hell before they ever hit the ground, is one of the lines in the song. But it's like people get stuck in this sort of monotonous work. Let me drive to work down the interstate and get pissed off and flick everybody off when they cut into my lane, and go work this stupid job that I don't like, so I can come home to the stupid house that I don't like and pay, so I can pay all these stupid bills that I don't want to pay. And it's like deep down inside of them, there is some sort of ambition or pursuit that that maybe they've even forgotten about, but the subconscious has such a weird way of holding on to things that sometimes even our cognitive memory can't recognize, So
a lot of people hit hell.
Homeboy's preaching.
A lot of people hit hell or go to hell before they hit the ground.
Ay,
my
caramba,
gosh.
casana, maranga.
Man,
That
this
is a
speaks
beautiful
to
thing.
me. He said,
Oh,
when you're a
man.
kid, your world seems limitless.
Yeah, you have the imagination. Hasn't been corrupted.
And then as you get older, fear controlled my life for decades, bro. Decades. I
You're
wouldn't
not
do
that old though.
31, but decades. I was so terrified of doing anything, and it wasn't how, I guess I was afraid of how people would view me, but I
think everybody does though.
but it was crippling.
Yeah.
A lot of people we all care to an extent about how people view us.
Yeah.
It's just being human. But you get crippling fear that's often irrational, and it completely controls how you move forward in life, and you don't go after things you want to as a result of that. I can relate to that, man. And he's just saying, go after it. Who cares what other people think? If you have a message, get it out. Get it out. Stop wasting so much time when you have a message that's burning inside of you. And if we want to change this next generation of music, of films, I'm a storyteller, so I love movies. If we want to have movies that impact the world, because movies influence people just like music do. They're some of the most powerful mediums in the world. You have to just get it out and stop being afraid of what people will think.
If you can silence the imagination, you can control society.
Yep.
And that's what the education system unfortunately has done.
Yep.
Is when you can silence the way somebody thinks and the way that somebody can craft a narrative to go after their ambition that has been placated or pushed down in their subconscious, then you create robots, you create trolls of people that don't think for themselves and become so stagnant in the way that they view their situation, and they give up in a lot of ways. And that's what he's referencing is don't give up, push through.
When I look at Republicans and Democrats in 2023, that's what I see. Is I see people who are bitter and angry and disgusted with a system that isn't serving anyone correctly. But instead of us being able, in the same way that in a business, someone with a more conservative mindset and someone with a more liberal mindset could use entrepreneurial and like traditional and organizational skills to build a strong business, which is what we should be doing in our political climate in our country. We're using our bitterness as a weapon against each other. You know, it's been interesting. I think obviously a lot of people understand what it is I'm trying to say or what my message is within the song, but it has been interesting seeing both sides also attack me, misinterpreting that I'm identifying with the other. You know, I've had, like, for example, I've had, even just recently, I've had some conservatives give me grief for making the comment that we're stronger or something to the, this was in the middle of a concert and it was, I think I said strength through diversity, which really resonates on exactly what that point is, that we need to have people that think differently use those strengths to work together in a way that makes us all stronger. But I think people are so used to hearing that as a sort of a left-wing rhetoric that they immediately identified it as that. And then on the flip side, I've had the left very much attacking me as being sort of this right-wing, far right-wing, whatever, you know, and you've experienced this yourself. But at some point, we've got to figure out a way to for us as a society, maybe find a way to leap out of that. Like what we're facing in today's world is much bigger than that. That is important. It's important that we have politics and that we have a system in which we decide how different ideas are implemented into government, but it can't rule us either. Like we've allowed it to not sit here at the wayside, but we've allowed it to almost encapsulate all of us. Like it's become sort of the ceiling under which we live under. And, you know, I've had people say that I'm a fence sitter and that I need to have some sort of call to action. And I guess like if there's anything that I would respond to that with, given the opportunity we have now, it's like, I think we need to take a step back and re-envision what we want the next 20 or 30 years to look like. And there's an important verse that came to mind. This is in Matthew 22, starts in 34, but it's where the Pharisees are questioning Jesus on, like, because even throughout the Bible, there are contradictions, obviously, and people have different forms of opinion and different ways things are worded even throughout the Bible. But he says, a Pharisee asked Jesus, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" And Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is love your neighbor as yourself." And like, as simple as that is, if we could just find a way to make those two commandments, even outside of religious boundaries, if we could learn to make that our priority and then base our differences below that, you know, like God is here, our love for each other here. And then below that is try to find a way to integrate our differences in a way that everyone can live a better life. Like it would resolve a lot of the conflicts that have become like way overcomplicated, you know?
Wow.
I love hearing him talk about scripture like that. You know, Oliver Anthony, you can tell that it's really grounded him, and it's really helped him with even his own mental health and his mental state. He seems at peace with it, and he's not siding with any political party. I mean, they're both corrupt in his eyes. And
something that's hits home for me. On one of our recent videos, someone said that they were an atheist because at least atheists don't attack each other on their beliefs. He said Christians and people that have different religions attack each other on their different beliefs, and they're just constantly at war with each other. The foundation of Christianity, the foundation on what we all need to do, even if you're not a Christian, is to love each other passionately. It doesn't mean that I have to agree with everything you said, because there's a difference, right? Well, we can agree to disagree, but having that discussion, saying, I'm going to respect you as a man because you have this opinion. Let's talk about it. I might start believing some things you say. Hopefully I can have some influence on you. But if you want to have any influence in the world, if you want anybody to listen to you, you have to be willing to accept people and to say they're at a different place than me. We can have a discussion, and through that, I choose to still love them as a person. And I think that's one of the biggest things, because we don't talk really much about politics here.
Yeah.
But just with our political climate, everything is, if you don't believe what I believe, you're now my enemy.
It's divisive.
It's divisive.
You can't politicize everything.
But if we came together and just said, we can have difference of opinions, but let's choose to love each other through it. Let's talk about things, and we don't have to be at war with each other because of everything. And that's the most powerful thing that I've gotten through Oliver Anthony, through all of this, is he's saying that's why he says he's not left or right, because when you do that, you're saying, okay, now I'm on this side and I'm against you. He's saying, let's come together as human beings, have a dialogue, and get out and be a powerful voice of change. And that's what I got through this whole interview, is Oliver Anthony saying it's time for you to get out there. It's time for you to let your message be heard. And it's time for us to freaking start respecting and loving each other, even though we have difference of opinion. And that's powerful.
I love that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell notification so that you're updated every time we upload a video. And we'll see you guys on the next one.
I'm back from Mexico, so we're going to be uploading every day.
We are the Wilson Brothers.
Let's go.
Peace.